We have on staff of Hannibal one of the best prosthetics departments working in Toronto, and it's led by Francois Dejanay, and he has a history with doing a lot with very little.
We were lucky in the beginning that Francois was available to us, because in looking at his work and ultimately the work, how it's projected up, the detail and just the translucence of skin of, I want to say, the victims that we have, of that he has to create out of the materials that ultimately are plastic.
To have someone who is a maestro with flesh and blood and is able to take the elements that he's learned from working on movies like the Saw films and bring that body dysmorphia to Hannibal Lecter.
The talent and the artwork, because it's painting and it's creating. And the depths of it, because we flay angels, so you've got to go fillet after fillet after fillet, and the layer of bone, the layer of flesh, the layer of muscle, and under the muscle, and then the organs. It's perfection.
From the moment you know what's in the script, you start thinking. The more information you get at your meeting, you either alter the way you're thinking or you keep going in that direction.
We are constantly turning people inside out. We are sewing them together. We are flaying them in very specific ways. And so you need somebody who has a vast knowledge of all sorts of practical prosthetic effects and not just one avenue.
We have some ideas of what we'll have to do. And usually because of the show, we're thinking bodies, gore, blood, stuff like that. And the nice thing about it is that it's not just gore, it's a little bit of, a little bit more than that, which is fun for us.
This is a little bit tricky piece to build, simply because we weren't exactly sure of what we needed and wanted. We had certain designs given to us, and we started building it. And as we were building it, Bryan came in and saw it, and the designs somewhat took a slight change. Instead of covering all the bones and everything, we left them exposed because he liked the aspect of it being all bones when the man works with bones all the time.
Francois is very integral to the production process because we get in with him in meetings very early on in the process. We talk about a concept, and Francois, because being somebody who recreates bodies all the time, knows how those bodies work.
He's a victim that we find in the hospital room, and he presented a little bit more of a challenge simply because of the way he was supposed to be. He wasn't just a body laying down on a table or on a bed. He was actually suspended, and he had to be suspended in a very specific position. So he's actually a static body. So he doesn't move, there's no joints in him or anything. He's just that position, and that's it.
So we have these wonderful, disturbing meetings where Francois will tell us, well, the body would actually do this in that circumstance. And then we'll say, oh, okay, that's great, because then if the body is reacting that way, then we'll turn it this way, and that actually becomes part of the story.
So we have the judge over here. The judge was part of a tableau. It was representation, brain in one hand, heart in the other. And this one here, we wanted to use the actor, but it became quite evident. We were going to do green screen cap and all this stuff, but it became evident that it was going to be a little bit of a task for him to be in that position and suspended and all this stuff. So we, at the last minute, decided to go ahead and do a fake head of the actor and throw it on a body that we already had in his existing body.
So we have perfection, and he delivers perfection on a schedule that is insane. And it's almost as if he's just finished one, another script is given to him with an audacious splay of character again.
You can try to be ready as much as you can, but until you get the script, and until you see what's written in there, and until you get an explanation of who wrote it, of what it is that they really want, you can't plan in advance. So again, this is that moment where you're in your meeting and you get all the information required, and then you run back and start as soon as you can.
It's a tremendous amount of work to do on a television schedule. It's ridiculous.
Once you start the show, it's like you're falling and rolling, and it's just the speed picks up till it's over. You know what I mean?
I don't know how they get it done because they're not given enough time to do it the way he would like to do it. And every single time it comes out looking just incredible.
Because he only has like 8 days to prepare for each next episode, and it is very much the Indiana Jones boulder that is right at his heels. And if he slips, it'll crush him.
We're actually making stuff from nothing. So it takes a little bit more time. If we can alter something that's already made, all the better. But most of the time, we can't do that because everything is written specifically for that episode. Well, this is our next victim for the following episode, the one that's coming up. And what we're doing here is we're going to create a burnt body, and it will have to do a few different things. Right now, we're reusing the Beverly body since we will not recognize the person. That was the closest to the body size of the actress that we're doing. This is a burn scene and an aftermath. So we're making a body that's going to be seen in the morgue as a crispy, burnt body. And then we're also going to take this body and turn it into a tableau for the following day.
He goes out of his way and works long, tireless hours to deliver what he does to the screen.
He makes it happen. You know, it's never, I can't, it is, I can do it. How great.
What are you feeding my dogs?
Just me.
Even something as horrifying as Mason Verger tearing off of his face, not tearing off, like cutting in chunks to feed to the dogs, is such a complicated process.
Again, the time factor is always an issue. So with the amount of time we did, we decided to do it one way. So we pushed out his teeth, so we gave him dentures that fit on his face. We took his face and put it back as a prosthetic over his own face, and then, you know, did the piece on that, like did the actual makeup in terms of when you actually dug into his skin, you saw his teeth, so it gave the illusion that it was deep.
Because you have all of this rigging with blood tubes, you're getting something off the face that has to be edible for the dogs, so you can do it all in one take.
So that was achieved with prosthetic. He had a prosthetic mask on. However, like all prosthetics, they have to be built out from the face.
You can't add things, even as good as the illusion is, you can't add a bunch of thickness to a face and make it look thin again without these guys' help.
We cut everything in. We shrunk the prosthetic down so it just looks like it's built in. It's part of his face.
The other thing was that with that prosthetic and the mouthpiece that he had to wear, he had very limited articulation. So he couldn't really speak. It was almost like a very complicated, very nice looking Halloween mask that was on top. So we actually had to animate every line that he said during those two scenes.
I'm hungry.
Eat your nose in.
In the scene, he also cuts off the tip of his own nose. And for that, we had to create a new 3D nose for him to cut through with a knife which had no blade in it. And then we created the blade, the blood, and the tip of his nose in order to see it fall away.
And that's also the way you shoot it, right? If you didn't have any CG, if you didn't have the money to go that route or whatever, we would have to do something that it would have to work. But with that element, it's again, they can take his face, they can put it back on his prosthetic. It's just, there's all kinds of stuff they could do. So it makes us look really good in a way.
There's so much knowledge that goes into preparing any of these single shots that it's hard to pick a single favorite, but I do love the face-off. I do love Mason Verger's face-off.
It puts us in that world. It creates an extra reality that is extraordinary. I know it's fake, but in the moment it doesn't feel fake, and it just helps you as an actor to completely believe in this fantasy you're creating.
It's interesting. I think Scott and I, when we first The first couple episodes of season 1, we would actually like dread to go in because it looked so real and haunting. We were like, oh, how are we going to do this scene? And now we kind of bolt out of our trailers and are looking like ready to see what his next piece of art is.
I know it sounds horrible, but we're thrilled with what they have for us, yeah.
There are some times where I have my hand in some sort of dead body and it's actually the actor with a false bottom or something, and I've forgotten that, and he'll like do something like that and we'll freak out.
She has a heartbeat.
What? Because we're just like, oh, right, this one was real. I forgot that this is a real guy in this scene. This isn't one of the mannequins that looks exactly like a real guy.
And there have been plenty of times watching the show where I have had to jump up from the sofa and run around the room going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my, that's so disgusting. I can't believe they did that. I can't believe. The guy with the skin and the sewing and the ripping of the skin, I was like, Jesus Christ.
I watched that episode and I still shake my head at how we got away with that much flesh tearing and that much disturbing cinema.
When I go home and my everybody's Cuban and they're all like, we can't watch this is so bloody. The element even on set, which sometimes you're so aware of how fake things are. In this case, you're so aware of how fake they're not.
We get comments while people watch it during the week, and I get a text. It was like, "Oh my God," you know, stuff like that. So you know you're doing a good job.
Francois makes it all feel real and grounded in a way, and I don't feel like I'm looking at a prosthetic.
He's an artist, you know. He's really dedicated and committed to what he does, and his standards are so high. And I mean, of course, Bryan those are the kind of people that he chooses to work with. He only wants the best.